Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today we are bringing back the Collecting a Battalion series, and this time we're going to be looking at the new Lumineth Realm-Lords. So the Lumineth Realm-Lords are the spiritual successors to the High Elves from the world that was. Well, at least part of the army is. There are certain aspects that look like that old world Ulthuan style High Elf that we remember from the world that was, but there's also some new elements that are, to say, put it bluntly, have divided opinions upon the release. Personally, I'm a massive fan of everything Lumineth, all parts of it I really enjoy. I like the Age of Sigmar style put into an old aesthetic. It looks really cool in my mind. Now, anyway, so let's talk about what this whole little series here called Collecting a Battalion is all about. Now, we've already done one of these before, and we'll probably have to update that one because the GHB's come out and changed a few of the lists in that, but this one is all about the Lumineth, and so what the idea of this is that a battalion can be a great way to collect an army. And so let's start with what is a War Scroll Battalion. So a War Scroll Battalion is like a special kind of formation comprised of various different units and characters that by taking such a combination will give you access to additional abilities for units inside the War Scroll Battalion while you play the game. This is really cool. It gives you bonuses for taking units that belong together in the narrative. That's always cool in my mind. If it pushes the narrative, it's got my okay. But why collect a battalion? Well, it could be a great way to collect to a theme. As previously mentioned, battalions are generally based around themes within armies, and so they require you to take units that in the narrative would fight alongside each other in particular ways. There are some great examples of this, like particularly the Thunderhead Brotherhood from Stormcast, where you have Liberators building up a shield wall and giving their shield benefits to Judicators who sit behind them. This is a really cool thematic thing that happens in the narrative, and so it's great to see that play out on the tabletop. It also gives you a goal to strive towards, though. Like, filling out a battalion is cool, and especially when you start looking further down the line into like those mega battalions. If you're really wanting to make a whole collection of a particular army, there'd be great ways to fill out and flesh out an army completely and give you a goal to reach. Lastly, though, as mentioned, you get bonuses for playing with those models, and they go together narratively, so you can easily build a narrative and have good rules to go alongside them. So the plan on this is to build an army focusing on the battalion, obviously, and then to thematically build upon the battalion if required. Not all battalions will fill out a 2,000 point army, which is what we're going to be trying to build, and also to have a framework to set an end goal within. So the battalion is the end goal, and the 2,000 point army around it, but you can fully flesh out that battalion, and that can be your true end goal. But let's get cracking into this and look at the Lumineth Realm-Lords, and we'll be looking at the battalions throughout the book. So the first battalion we're going to look at in this little series is going to be the Alarith Temple. Now, this is definitely the aesthetic wise the most divided of opinion battalion there is going to be, mainly because this features all the ox cow motif units. So to start with, let's look at the organisation of this battalion, and it must include either Avalon the Stoneheart King or one Alarith the Spirit of the Mountain. So these are the giant, collectively known as battle cattle, and you must include either the special character or one of the generic variants. You also must include one Alarith Stonemace, it's a cool mage model that sits on the rocks, and 1 to 3 units of Alarith Stoneguard. These are the elves with the hammers. So what do we get for taking this battalion? So at the start of the combat phase, any friendly Stoneguard units from this battalion that are wholly within 12 inch of a friendly hero from the same battalion can turn their skin to stone until the end of phase. You can reroll save rolls for attacks that target a unit that has turned its skin to stone, but models in a unit that has turned its skin to stone can only move 1 inch when they pile in. So let's unpack that a little bit. It requires your Stoneguard units to be around characters. So straight away, to me, the number one thing this says to me is I want to take Avalon or the Stoneheart King over the Alarith Spirit of the Mountain. He's not that much more expensive, but he is a character unlike the generic Alarith Spirit of the Mountains. So this is going to give us 2 bubbles of this ability to pull around with. So let's look into the army itself, and obviously our main army, we are playing Lumineth Realm-Lords, and the sub-faction we're going to choose is we are going to play the great nation of Ymetrica. So Ymetrica has some cool abilities that really tie in and make everything about this battalion better. So already we get Mountain Realm ability, which is they have the Enduring Rock Battle trait. Changes the Ren characteristic for attacks that target Ymetrica Alarith units in the mountain stance to Ren Dash. The weapon used for that attack has a Ren characteristic of -1 or -2 now, instead of just -1. So this is really cool. Means if they're getting hit with -2, all our Alarith units don't care about that Ren. Which is really cool because 90% of this list is all Alarith, so you're ignoring Ren 2 effectively army wide. You also do get a command ability that your heroes can use, and so this allows you, if you do so, pick one friendly Ymetrica Alarith unit that has forced an enemy to move using the Tectonic of Force ability. We'll get onto that in a little bit. And so for the first time in that phase, the unit is hollow within 18 inch of a friendly Ymetrica hero. You can use the Tectonic Force battle trait for a second time by picking one other enemy unit. So effectively a unit can charge 2 and push back 2. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's pretty darn cool that we can push units back, and that is a major feature of the Alarith Stone Guard. They have this ability called Tectonic Force, which all Alariths do, so Avalanor and the Stone Mage both have this as well, that allows you to push models back. So you can push models off objectives and stuff like that. It is worthwhile making sure that you do keep in mind not to potentially push back larger units, as this can actually go against you and allow enemies to swarm around you. So you may need to double up your units and sort of pincer movement your enemy to sort of force them to go where you want to go. Now let's look into the leaders of the army, and we'll get into the army list proper now as well. So we are going to be taking Archmage Teclis and Selenar, the Spirit of Haish. We're also, as mentioned, going to take Avalanor because he just works in this battalion better than a regular Spirit of the Mountain. We're then going to take an Alarith Stone Mage. Why not? We're not going to get the command traits any other way, so it's worth making him the general, giving him the command trait Almighty Blow and the Artifact Mountain's Gift. These don't really do much of anything, honestly, and are just the simple command traits you have to take with your Metrica. But we're also going to take the spell Crippling Vertigo. So Crippling Vertigo allows you to be rolling on an opponent's bravery and stopping them do things, particularly movement, which is the important stuff. The reason why I've not got any spells listed here is because don't forget Teclis gets all the spells in the book, which is just fantastic. He's an absolute powerhouse of a wizard, and I really struggle to find me not wanting to put him in Lumineth Realm-Lords armies. For battle line, we're going to take 3 units of 10 Alarith Stone Guard. This is going to be a solid block that is going to be hard for your opponent to shift, with Teclis' ability to cast some protection spells that will give them a 5-up DPR save or damage prevention roll, ward, whatever you want to call it. Plus the fact they're ignoring Ren 2, and they've got a pretty decent save, and they'll also have those Aether Quartz fragments there to use. So this can be quite a hardy list, although limited in models. What this means though is that you'll have to pick your fight with the army. You need to pre-plan and pre-position your units, especially when using Tectonic Force against larger forces, to make sure your opponent can't swarm around you and get more attacks in. This is really cool though, and it just gives you the ability to pre-think, and a lot of things with this army do have to do with setting plans in motion, perhaps maybe that turn before to go, I need to get here to do this. Really cool though is that Teclis does have a spell that allows you to double the move of one of these Alarith units, so particularly late game this can allow them to jump on objectives and score those points you need to win the game. As mentioned, the battalion, we're going to be taking that, we all know that. Endless spell-wise, we've taken Umbral Spell Portal, the Hesian Twinstones, and the Sanctum of Amnadok. So Umbral Spell Portal, you've probably heard this one before. Combine this with Teclis and he can do some horrendous mortal wound potential with the army. He is got some spells that do some quite decent ranged mortal wounds, and this can help sort of pick off those heroes that you might otherwise struggle to get that are in your opponent's backfield. Hesian Twin Stones are an interesting choice that I've chosen, and they mainly will help benefit the Alarith Stone Mage. This can make him a pretty good caster with tankless auto casting stuff and putting numbers into the Hesian Twin Stones. This can make your Alarith Stone Mage's spells go off when they need to. Lastly, we're taking the Sanctum of Amnetok, and so this is a spell, the one that sort of wraps around a hero, and this can be used with the Alarith Stone Mage. I'm not particularly sure at this moment, because we haven't actually seen the models, whether or not it'll fit around Teclis, because the bases of it do need to be touching at the tips. So whether or not they can fit around Teclis, we don't know yet, but it can definitely fit around that Alarith Stone Mage, who is probably the better use of it at this point, because it'll allow him to be that little bit more survivable, and you can really use him to sort of spread his base and actually become a decent sized blocker in your lines, because your lines can potentially get thin quite quickly if your opponent can get through those Alarith Stone Guard quickly. So the army comes to 2,000 points in total. You get an extra command point, obviously, because you're taking a battalion. We're taking no allies, and it has a reasonable 95 wounds. It is a little bit light on the wounds, as I would say probably about 120 is probably that mark, but 95 is not too bad for an elite army. Definitely the issue with this is that you have limited units, so you need to make sure you have those units in place at the right time, so you need to be thinking that turn ahead. But that's all from me talking about this list. I hope you find this list interesting and enjoy it, and if you play a game of it, let me know. So I hope you enjoyed this video talking about the battalions from Lumineth Realm-Lords. If you did, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Every subscription means the world to us here at Cinderful Gaming. And also, while you're at it, you might want to jump down in the links in the description. You can find our Twitch channel, which you should definitely go follow and help us hit 50 followers nice and quick. Also, you can find links to our Discord channel where you can chat with me and other members of the community. And you'll find the link to our Patreon, where you can choose to support the channel in other ways. And lastly, a special thank you to all our Patreon supporters, our Sinful Guard Militia, Christian Weir, Siren, Philip Ward, and Cowspawn. You guys are fantastic. And our Sinful Free Guild Regiment member, James, thank you very much. That's all from us today, though. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey.